We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Michael I. Michael has a slight case of upgraditis. He really enjoys his Ascend CMT-340SE speakers, but he feels like they have some room for improvement. He feels like they could image a little bit better, maybe create a wider sound stage, a deeper sound stage. That's the sort of thing he's going for. Now, he really likes Ascend. He's considering staying with Ascend, and he wants to know how much of an audible improvement is there going from the CMT-340SEs to the Sierra 1s. The Sierra 1s are the next step up in terms of price. Would it even be worth the upgrade? So, I have experience with both of these speakers. The Sierra 1s definitely sound different. Like if you did a blind listening comparison, I genuinely believe you could tell them apart. The Sierra 1s, really, Dave was aiming to create a speaker a bookshelf speaker that you could potentially use without a subwoofer, just all on its own. He was going for a little bit fuller, a little bit more bass extension with the Sierra 1, something that people who want to just do one pair of bookshelf speakers could potentially use all on their own listening to music without losing a tremendous amount of bass. As a result, they're actually not quite as linear as the rest of the speakers in Ascend's lineup. They have that little bit fuller, a little bit warmer sound, a little bit more bass extension, a little bit raised mid-bass to give you that sense of that fuller sound. Would it be a big upgrade over the CMT-340s in terms of imaging, soundstage, overall sound quality? Like I say, I don't think you'd mistake one for the other. I struggle a little bit to say that it's a really huge overall upgrade. It's a difference. Now, since the Sierra 1s are available with free two-way shipping, I say audition them. Find out for yourself completely risk-free whether you think they're really worth the upgrade. Now, Michael asks, what about the NRT upgrade for the Sierra 1? What's that all about? Well, let's say you're buying the Sierra Towers or the regular Sierra Horizon center speaker. Those come with the NRT dome tweeter. So if you want to have perfect timbre matching in the treble, you can get an NRT tweeter for the Sierra 1 speaker and a new crossover. So the woofer is kept the same, the cabinet is kept the same, but you get a NRT tweeter instead of the standard Sierra 1 tweeter, and you get a new crossover. And you can get that as an upgrade kit. It's something you can do yourself. You just unscrew the tweeter, reach inside, unscrew the woofers to get at the crossover, take out the original crossover, put it in the new crossover, put the original woofer back in, put the new NRT tweeter in, and connect that all up. You can do that at home. It's not a terribly difficult process, but it's mostly about getting a perfect timbre match to the Sierra Towers and the Sierra Horizon. They also have a Sierra 2 upgrade kit. That replaces the tweeter with a RAL ribbon tweeter. It also replaces the woofer with a C's curve material woofer, and it replaces the crossover. So everything except the cabinet gets replaced with the Sierra 2 upgrade kit. So he's saying, how did the Sierra 1, the Sierra 1 NRT, and the Sierra 2 all compare? And then how do they compare to the CMT-340? So to me, the biggest difference is going from the CMT-340 to the Sierra 2. That RAL ribbon tweeter is a very clear detail upgrade with fantastically fast transient response. Like I say, the most astonishing thing about the Sierra 2 is all the stuff that it doesn't play, because it has no reverberation, no hangover of the sound. When a note stops, it stops on a dime. It is rapid transient response in that ribbon tweeter. It's quite an obvious difference in sound. And that upgraded C's curve woofer keeps up with that, and it is tremendously linear. It doesn't have any of the warmth or the extension in the bass. It is just a ruler flat response with terrifically fast transient response. If you're looking for an upgrade in fidelity and detail, the Sierra 2 kind of is what you want. But you can start with the Sierra 1, the original Sierra 1, because that's the one that comes with free two-way shipping. Give it a try. And then if you decide to keep that because of budget, you have the option of upgrading it to a Sierra 2 with the Sierra 2 upgrade kits. The total price of getting the Sierra 1 originally and then adding the Sierra 2 upgrade kit to it, that total price is greater in total than just buying the Sierra 2 right away at the beginning. but it's not tremendously so. It's only it's a little over $100 more total getting the Sierra 1 and then adding the kit to it versus getting the Sierra 2 right from the get-go. So if this is a matter of saving up over time because of budget, that's really not a bad way to come at it. The Sierra 1 NRT ends up being the odd man out because the upgrade kit it ends up being actually a little bit more than the difference in price between so if you started with Sierra 1 and went to Sierra 2 versus just getting the Sierra 2 right away, that difference in price, like I say, is a little over $100. If you start with Sierra 1 and go to Sierra 1 NRT versus just getting the Sierra 1 NRT right away, then the difference in price, I think, is $125, $150 or something like that. So it's actually a greater differential in price going the upgrade way. So if you're going to do anything, if it's budget, start with the Sierra 1 because it's free two-way shipping, so no risk. And then the Sierra 2, I think, is where you want to end up because that's the greatest difference in sound, the difference in fidelity. So right now, he has his speakers 7.5 feet apart. He's sitting 11 feet away from them. He's found that when he tries to widen the sound field by just putting the 340 speakers wider apart, he loses a little bit of tightness and control, and particularly in the mid bass, things sound a little bit flabbier, not quite as precise. Would the Sierra 1s or the Sierra 2s allow him to put them wider apart and still have this more precise soundstage? So I got to be honest with you, Michael, that has more to do with your room than it does to do with the speakers. I think what's happening there is by having them wider apart, they're now closer to the side walls. You're getting stronger reflections off those side walls, which are perhaps smearing the sound a little bit. That would explain what sounds like a slightly flabbier sound in the mid-range. You're getting more reflected sound now that the speakers are closer to the side walls. The Sierra 1s, the Sierra 2s are not going to be immune to that. I might say the Sierra 1s might suffer even more because that have that little bit of a mid-bass rise to make them sound fuller. The Sierra 2s, since they roll off a little bit higher and are ruler flat through that mid-range, they might do a little bit better. They also have that tremendously fast transient response to begin with. But honestly, this has more to do with your room than it does with the speaker itself. So I wouldn't, the speaker upgrade, particularly the Sierra 2, could improve this because of that faster transient response and that flatter mid-bass response and higher roll-off, where it starts to roll off in the bass. But this is more about getting at your room. So lastly, he has a pair of HSU VTF-2 Mk4 subwoofers. He has them placed at the midpoints of the front wall and the back wall in his room, and he loves the sound. But he wonders if he might need something larger to really pressurize his room. Michael, you'd have to answer that for me. Are you feeling a lack of pressurization in your room? Particularly go for a nice big deep bass drum or a kick drum. Do you feel that kick drum in your chest? And keep in mind, that has a lot to do with the volume level you're listening at. A full live concert is a lot louder than most of us listen to music at home. So it's only natural that a kick drum isn't going to thump us in the chest like live music does if you're listening at what most of us would consider a reasonable volume level. Turn your system up, get it to live music levels, volume levels, and see how those subwoofers respond. Because if you're feeling a nice thump in your chest like you would from a real live kick drum at a live concert, obviously you don't need to upgrade these subwoofers. Is it possible that you need to upgrade them to get that kick? Sure, maybe. So really his question is, he is considering going to a VTF-15H or the ULS 15 sealed subwoofers. These are larger subwoofers, larger drivers, higher output than the VTF-2s. If he did that though, he says his wife would basically kill him if he got two of them. So he'd have to go for one. Now he says he really only cares about one seat. So this whole having uniform response across all of his seats isn't his priority. He just wants that one seat to really, really rock and really, really thump him in the chest. But he'd probably have to tuck this one much larger subwoofer into a corner. So when you're dealing with this one seat, one sub, you can get good response. The way we always approach that is doing the subwoofer crawl. And that means putting the subwoofer that you're going to use in your seating position to start. You play bass sweeps on repeat through that subwoofer, and then you take yourself to all the positions in the room where that subwoofer might live, and you listen to those sweeps on repeat, and you find the spot where you have the most uniform, non-roller coaster type of sound coming from that bass sweep. That's what you're aiming for. Now, if corners are your only options, I can't guarantee you that any of those corners are going to work. You might discover that any corner that you could put the sub results in a roller coaster sound when you listen to the bass sweep playing. if you're happy with the linearity of the sound, the accuracy of the sound from your subwoofers right now, moving away from dual subwoofers really presents a challenge. Since you only care about one seat, this is possible. Maybe you do have other spots in the room. Maybe you'll luck out and one of the corners really works well. It could. It's possible. What you could do, though, is take one of the subs you have right now and do this. Do the subwoofer crawl with one of the subs you already own. So you're only going to use one of them, but you're going to put it where you sit, do the subwoofer crawl, go to all the positions in your room where the subwoofer might live. If you find a spot that gives you quite a nice response that isn't a giant roller coaster with huge humps and dips in that bass sweep, then this could work. This absolutely could work. But again, figure out if those VTF2s really need to be upgraded or not. It's possible they do. So this week,
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
now go out and listen to something.